Affectionately known as the Glamazon Mom, she is a 22-year gospel music industry veteran and president of EFG Promotions and Consulting, a radio promotions and branding company. Her career includes 17 number one chart-topping hits, over 100 top 30 singles at radio, and has worked with the top artists like Smokie Norful, CeCe Winans, Ty Tribbett, and Jacqueline Carr. Motivational speaker, radio and TV personality, entrepreneur, and moderator for this evening. Here's our host, Ebony Funderburk.
Hello and welcome to Conversations That Continue, Grammys, Faith, and Diversity. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The vision of the One Voice Initiative is to help create space for honest conversations that lead not only to the creation of music that speaks to our time, but also brings forth lasting healing and unity in our music community and ultimately our country and the world. The One Voice Committee is made up of artists and industry professionals like myself, including representation from many gospel and Christian record companies and industry organizations like the Gospel Music Association. We're glad that you've joined us for this series, Conversations That Continue. And at this time, I want to welcome our wonderful panel of guests for today's discussion on Grammys, Faith, and Diversity. I'm very honored to introduce our first panelist. Harvey Mason Jr. is the interim president and CEO of the Recording Academy and serves as chair on the board of trustees. He is presiding officer of the Recording Academy and chairs the executive committee, also serves as a member of each standing committee and represents the board of trustees and by extension, the membership of the Academy. He has penned and produced songs for both industry legends and today's biggest superstars, and everyone from Whitney Houston to Beyonce, Elton John to Justin Timberlake, Aretha Franklin to Ariana Grande, Luther Vandross to Justin Bieber, Michael Jackson to Chris Brown have all called on Mason to deliver uniquely musical yet radio-friendly hit records. Simultaneously, Mason has been instrumental in producing memorable music for many of the biggest musical films and TV events from the past decade, films such as Dreamgirls, Sparkle, Shrek, the Pitch Perfect franchise, and TV shows including The Wiz Live and Jesus Christ Superstar Live in Concert. Mason donates his time and resources to several charitable organizations, including the Grammy in the Schools, Music Cares, Ronald McDonald House, the American Cancer Society, and Los Angeles Children's Hospital. And he received the Spirit of Excellence Award in 2012 from the T.J. Martell Foundation for his philanthropic efforts. Please welcome interim president and CEO of the Recording Academy, Harvey Mason Jr.
That was entirely too long.
Hey, but we wanted to give you the best introduction ever.
Thank you. The panel is over now. Jeez. No, thank you very much for having me. It's good to be here.
This two-time Grammy Award winner is an internationally renowned artist and HarperCollins author in the Thomas Nelson division. He is a two-time Grammy Award winner whose music is gold and platinum selling, and he's garnered multiple number one Billboard chart-topping hits. In addition to music, he is the founding pastor of Victory Cathedral Worship Center in Chicago, Illinois, the loving husband to Carla, and father of two brilliant sons. He's the first artist and songwriter, along with Aaron Lindsay, to win in the category of Best Gospel Performance Song for his hit single, No Greater Love. And he's also won Best Contemporary Soul Gospel Album for his chart-topping album, Nothing Without You. Please welcome Smokie Norful.
Yeah.
Woo! Kierra Sheard comes from a legendary Clark family and has been in the music industry for almost 25 years. She recently starred in a critically acclaimed Lifetime television movie about the life and legacy of the Clark sisters and her grandmother, Maddie Moss Clark. She played her mom, Karen Clark Sheard, and the Clark sisters movie shattered viewership records for Lifetime television network. Most recently, she was married to the love of her life, Mr. Jordan Kelly, on December of last year. Please welcome newlywed and Grammy-nominated Kierra Sheard Kelly, who is nominated for this year Best Gospel Album for her #1 Billboard chart-topping project, Kierra. Welcome, Kierra. He's an 8-time Grammy-nominated artist, 6-time Dove Award winner, platinum-selling singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, entrepreneur, as well as a public speaker. That's a lot. But he has accumulated more than 776 million total solo career global streams with over 1.95 billion audience impressions just in the US. He is established as one of the most talented and exciting young artists in the music industry today. And he's known for tracks like the platinum selling hit Hills and Valleys, as well as gold certified single Known. This 5-time #1 hit maker released his second full-length album, Citizens of Heaven, in January of last year, and is nominated for Best Contemporary Christian Music Performance Song, Famous For, featuring Jen Johnson. Please welcome Tauren Wells.
What's up? Yeah.
We're not done, guys, because we also have another 2-time Grammy winner, 22 GMA Dove Award winner, 2018 Kentucky Music Hall of Fame inductee. And during COVID, he was one of the first artists to appear during the return of Opry live telecast, joining Trace Atkins, Little Big Town, Clint Black, and more. He's internationally renowned male vocalist, author, actor, TV host, and musicians with appearances throughout the United States, London, Paris, Norway, and more. Nominated for Roots Gospel Album of the Year for the Crabb family album entitled 2020. Please welcome Jason Crabb.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
2020.
That was a year.
Yes. We would have called it something else if we would have only known.
Hilarious. Now, I love this next artist. These next 2 artists are amazing. We have one half of them here right now. We'll have another half later on in our conversation. But they simply wanted to say that they are worship leaders and songwriters. They serve at their local church, The Belonging in Nashville. They have 2 boys under 5. And they felt called to put scripture to song and connect people to the heart of Jesus through music. And millions of people have been impacted by their music. Nominated for the Blessing in the Contemporary Christian Performance Song of the Year category, please welcome Cody Carnes and later Kari Jobe.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
And last but not least, we really don't have a bio to give on him because it's just too much to say. He's a 25-year veteran. He started out as a teenager growing up in the church where his father was a pastor. He consumed all kinds of music from Michael Jackson and has worked with artists from Michael Jackson to Whitney Houston to Sam Smith, the Winans, Destiny's Child. He's a huge hit maker. And let me tell you, he's won so many Grammys. He doesn't know how many he has. He's actually lost count. So I want to introduce to you a guy who really needs no introduction. Please welcome Rodney Jerkins, the legendary.
What up, y'all?
So let's get started. And Harvey, I'm going to start with you and let's just kick off this conversation. You are, if I'm correct, the first African-American to head up the Recording Academy. How has that impacted your thoughts on how you're choosing to lead in this season? And what has your experience been this far?
That's a tricky question. I try not to have race determine how I lead. I try and just lead the right way and do things, set a good example, try and lead by showing how I live my life, how I conduct myself and my business. But I do bring my personal experiences to the academy and to the table and decisions that I make. So diversity and representation is very important to me. I have seen some of the struggles and uphill, journey we'll call that has had to take place for a lot of people in the music industry throughout history and specifically in the last 20 or so years. So I do pay attention to making sure that I use my platform. I use the opportunity to provide ways that people can improve their opportunities and really open the door for others to do great things. I think it's consistently happened and not consistently, but it's been something that has been attempted to be focused on in the industry. You know, they try and make changes to be more equitable, but I think in the last 12 months, and I've just been in the role around 8 or 9 months, but in the last 12 months, we've seen a shift in the industry. I'm not sure if it's self-motivated or if it was motivated by external events, but regardless, I think this is an opportunity to really make some drastic change and transformative change, both in the academy and in the industry. So I've been able to hopefully use my position and my platform to help drive some of that change. Obviously not the most important figure in the industry, I know that for a fact, but I like to hopefully contribute to making things better, make the industry a better place to work, and make sure there's open opportunities and fair, equitable opportunities for people from every race, not just Black people, but for others as well, and for women and sexual orientation and gender, things like that. So it's time. I mean, we have to be good to each other. We have to be loving. We have to be positive. There's been too much negativity, too much separation, too much hardship, too much struggle. And through music and through the things that we do, I think we can move the needle, we can make a difference. So back to your original question, I'm trying to use my race, my platform, my experience, anything that I've done in my life to bring good and to make things better.
That's good, because you're bringing a unique point of view into a place that maybe never had access to it in the way that you're given access to it now as a heading up the Recording Academy. Last year, you also, it marked the appointment of the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Her last name is Felicia Butterfield Jones. Am I saying her first name correct?
That is.
Okay, very good.
She is the first diversity and inclusion officer at the Academy's 63-year history. I hired her about 6 months ago. And I believe she's one of the first diversity and inclusion officers in the industry, for that matter. And she's now started a summit where the inclusion officers come together once a month. I know they've been hiring them at other labels as well now. So it's, I think, a huge positive step, one of many that need to take place throughout the industry and in the Academy.
So the Recording Academy recently partnered with Universal Music Group, Sony Music Group, Warner Music Group, and you released a statement committing to action to push for racial equality. And you underscored your commitment to work together to end systemic bias in the music industry. How is the Recording Academy planning to accomplish this, to address diversity, equitable representation in communities of color? How are you planning to address this moving forward?
Well, Ebony, you're hitting me with all the right questions here. This is good stuff. You know, we have a very comprehensive plan. One of the steps was hiring a diversity and inclusion officer and hosting these summits. We're bringing people together and all the other committees and equity officers together. We've started doing that. We started doing industry-wide listening sessions. We established a partnership with the Color of Change. We've made financial donations, and also substantive, systematic planning steps have been going into place to lay out some of the things that you're talking about. That document that was, the document that you're referencing was something that was put together in conjunction with the Academy and the Color of Change. Up some of the processes and some of the things that we are going to be looking to hold ourselves accountable for, and we hope others will join us on that journey. So it's an ongoing process. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's so many things that need to take place before we're anywhere close to being comfortable or satisfied. So I think these are some great early steps.
That's really good, guys. I'm going to ask this of all of you, of all of our panelists. Each of you have won Grammys or are Grammy nominated for your musical bodies of work. As a Grammy winner and nominee, what have been your experiences as it relates to diversity and the Grammy Awards? And what are you looking forward to see? Harvey has laid out some great plans and initiatives that the Recording Academy are putting together, or is putting together rather. But what are you seeing? What would you like to see happen as well as we're moving forward? So that was a mouthful. Nobody jump in.
I would just commend the Academy's history. You know, I don't have a rich understanding of the history, but in my experience, I was in a band years ago, maybe 10 years ago, called Royal Taylor, and we performed at the Nashville chapter Grammy block party, and it was us, the Civil Wars, a country artist, and a hip hop artist from Nashville. And so my experience has been very true to what you are saying, Mr. Mason, that, it's not just an intention. And I don't know if it was the external factors or internal factors, but my experience has been very good, very inclusive. And especially as a person of faith, having an opportunity to be in an event like a Nashville chapter Grammy block party is an incredible opportunity as well. So I love that we're moving forward, but I think also there is positivity in what has been done. And I'm glad to see we're adding to that.
It's definitely, thank you very much. It's been a unique time because I came on last January. So actually it's been 1 year. And then some of the events took place a few months after that, some of the racial unrest and upheaval there. And so it's been a unique set of circumstances because we started a lot of the programs prior to that, but then this really emphasized and amplified some of the things that were taking place across the industry. So the other thing that I'm also excited about is what we're calling the Black Music Collective, the BMC, and it's a national portion of the Academy. We've never had a Black music wing really in the Academy. And right now, as we know, Black music is making up almost 40% of the music being created and consumed. So our membership in that area was really low and wasn't reflective and representing the Black music that's being made and consumed in our country. So the Black Music Collective is a group of Black music creators that's advising the Academy on a nationwide level. And we're really utilizing them to guide us and say, hey, it's similar to what you just asked. What are some of the things the Academy can be doing better as it relates to Black music, as it relates to representation, and making sure the opportunities are there to highlight Black creators, highlight the music that they're making, make sure that the nominations and the membership and the leadership, everything is fair within the Academy for the Black music creators. So the BMC is something I'm very, very excited about as well.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing as it relates to women in music, because that was a hot button a couple of years ago, but what are some of the strides that you guys have taken since to make sure that there is equitable representation there?
Sure. We established the task force to look into women and representation in the Academy and in the industry. We've been working with them for over 2 years now. It's led by Tina Chen, and she has been giving us great information, great data, and insight as to what the numbers are. And it's not just an Academy problem, it's an industry problem. We didn't have enough representation by women in any of the fields, specifically behind the console, producers, engineers, things like that. We have quite a few women songwriters and artists, but the more technical side, we needed to do a better job. So we started programs with many of the women's organizations, She Is the Music, and a couple others, financially and also just programmatically, working with them to make sure that we're introducing more women to the industry, make sure we're able to bring more people along, making sure we're balancing our committees, our membership, our staff, everything at the Academy on a gender parity level. We've reached gender parity in all of our committees. We've reached it in our executive committee, our senior leadership. So we've made huge strides there as well. But really it comes down to a bigger issue, which is making sure that women are interested in this field from the beginning. Like, we have to introduce and expose people to, and it's people of color and women, make sure they know about all the other jobs that you can do in the industry. And you don't just have to be a singer or a rapper or a songwriter. There's so many other opportunities within the industry for women and people of color. So we're trying to make sure that we're introducing those concepts earlier and earlier.
So I'm going to re-ask this question to our panel, and I'm going to rephrase it maybe to help with some of the responses. But when we talk about diversity and inclusion, what do you guys in each of your respective portions of gospel, so gospel, Southern gospel, Christian worship, what do you feel the landscape is when we're talking about diversity, inclusion, equality? What are the landscape? What are the conversations you're hearing today, even after what we have experienced earlier this year? I'll start with you, Jason.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to say. It's an honor to be here today, and it's an honor to thank you for letting me use my voice and say that I love what the Grammys has done for us as believers and as musicians. I think they've done a fantastic job of giving everyone a voice. So far, I know we can all better that, and we all do that together. I think that's what's awesome about this panel that you have. It's really neat because everybody's rooting for everyone. That's a great thing. We want to see everyone succeed in life and flourish, and y'all are doing that. You're cultivating that, and I think with the ear to the ground, I think that's what everybody is wanting. Everyone, from artists to all walks of life, where we are. One of the great things that I'm a strong believer in my faith. And one of the things is, we all are supposed to just wrap our arms around everyone and love everyone. And the Grammys is doing that. And so I just want to say thank you so very much for that. Number one, I think there's a lot that we can all do, of course, and anything to do to help that, please let us know.
Cody, can I ask you that same question? Oh, you're on mute.
My computer keeps having issues, so I went to my phone. I can't figure it out. Yes, I do know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that this year this is my first nomination for the Grammy, so I'm new to this. And but I do know that this year is historic in the Christian music category and the CCM category as far as the diversity of the nominees. And I love that that's my first year as a nominee, that I'm a part of that I'm honored to be in that group of people. And I'm honored that that's happening, and that it is a historic year for that. And I know as far as in the church world, in the worship world, there's a lot of conversation about how do we come together more? How do we come together? How do we from all different cultures, from all different, even styles, how do we come together? And I know that there's things like Maverick City Music that's happening that is so beautiful. I've gotten to be a part of those, and I love what's happening there. Black and white of gospel and CCM, of coming together and writing together from the beginning to the end. The collaboration is together. The recording is together. We're leading together. It's a celebration of the cultures being melded together. I know we're having those conversations of like, how do we do that more? Because there's not enough of that. There hasn't been enough of that. And I feel like there's like a big kind of page turning right now in the church world, in the worship world of that kind of diversity, that kind of coming together. It's happening. It's extremely beautiful. And it's something I know that is in the worship world, we're celebrating all of that happening, and we're wanting more of it. So
That's good to hear, Smokie. I'm going to have you jump in on this.
I don't want to.
Oh, I love Smokie.
I don't want to, because I have a different experience, and definitely I don't want to be, the Debbie Downer, or what do you call it?
This is Conversations That Continue, and it starts with the conversation.
Okay. All right. So I don't know anything else to be besides myself, and that's to be transparent and be candid. And you asked about our experience. And of course, each one of us is going to have an individual experience, and it's going to be shaped by our own contextualization. And so I don't by any means or any stretch of the imagination say that what I'm going to share and what I contribute will be the end all be all, but it's definitely my experience. And I've been in the industry over 20 years also. So like almost not quite as long as Rodney Jerkins, but I've been in the music business for a long time now, and I've had a lot of different experiences. One of the things, I got so much to say, so I'm not going to try not to monopolize the whole time here, but
go for it.
First of all, with you, Harvey, a lot of the initiatives and the things that you named, let me celebrate the fact that you are the president or the head guy in charge. I celebrate that, emphatically, because you are the first African-American, the first man of color to be in that position. And that means a lot to me. And I value that. I value very much what you can offer and what you bring as far as your your contextualization and even your heart and your passion for the music, because I've known you as the producer for a long, long time when I was coming to your studio, creeping around, listening to you do your work with Tony Dixon. So I value the fact that you are in the place that you're in. And I do believe that there's an authenticity and a sincerity about what you said you're contributing or what is being done now. The challenge that I have is it's not the first time that we've heard it. In the 20 plus years that I've been in the business, I've heard other presidents, past president, say, and committees and members at top tiers say the exact same things. I don't know that necessarily they have created the same initiatives, but there have been similar initiatives, possibly even named something different. The thing that first makes me, the first concern that I would have is that what standards of expectation have been put in place, and how are you going to monitor? What is the win? What means that it was successful? What does that look like in 5 years, in 10 years? And then how do you measure that or assess that? Because anything that you don't assess, you can never determine whether or not it was successful. And so, what I would be more interested, not in the initiatives, because I've heard those before, more interested in knowing what assessment tools and what is the objective that will give you evidence that it has been successful or effective.
Well, it's good point, and I totally hear you, and I respect your experience, and I'm sure it has been unique. The reason I ran for chair was because I was not happy with the way things were being run and the things that had been done in the past. It's an elected position. The trustees elected me as chair based on my whole platform was like, we have to be better. We have to do things differently. So I do sympathize with you 100%. As far as the initiatives, we're doing things that have never been put in place. We have opened up the governance and the bylaws, and we're totally rewriting them. We have a team of people going through the bylaws right now. It's a 3-month process that we're about 3 weeks into that looks at everything, the way we set all the committees, the way we constitute our trustee room. Those things are all going to be in our bylaws. They will now be written down and legislated for the academy. So this isn't something that we're dreaming up and thinking about and then will disappear in a year. That's happening. Committees and things are being put in place we've never had. We've never had a chief diversity inclusion officer. That officer is responsible and reports directly to the CEO through our job titles. She responds and reports directly to the CEO with no intermediary. So she is, in essence, overseeing all of our diversity efforts. And if they're not going the way they're supposed to, she is going to communicate to me for the time being, but at some point the next CEO. So that's something we've never had as a safeguard and guardrails to make sure that the academy is functioning the way it's supposed to. Also, in establishing our partnership with the Color of Change, we've set out the guidelines and we've said exactly what we want to do, what our goals are for representation in our membership, in our committee structure, in our staff, in our leadership. These things have been written down. They've been proposed in writing, and I would love to share with everybody all the details of what they are. I don't have them memorized, but they are documented, and we have a check-in. We have an annual check. So by next year, we want to accomplish X. By year 2, we want to accomplish Y. And we have a 5-year goal set for membership, trustee representation, staff representation, and there's a couple other standards that we have as well. So we are not only just talking about them, we're instituting very measurable goals, and then we're continuing to monitor them over the course of a few years, in addition to legislating them. So things will be written down and they'll be permanent. And that's my hope in my term here. I'm only serving for 7 more months. And my goal is to make sure that we make as much long-lasting change that outlives my tenure as the CEO and president, so that somebody else can't come in and say, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that. These things are going to be permanent. And to your point, Smokie, you might have heard it from other people before, but you haven't heard it from me before. And you haven't heard it from somebody who's been in the music space like I have. I grew up in the studios. I've been working with artists like yourselves my whole career. So everything I do comes from the perspective of what's right for our industry, not just what do we think might be cool for the academy for the short term. And so when you hear it from me, there's meat behind it and there's teeth to it. And the programs that we're building now are going to be impactful and transformative.
Why do we have to lose you in 7 months though? Like, can we not vote you back?
Hey, can you change that?
I need to get back to the studio. I'm struggling over here. Thank you, though.
But what it's specifically, I'm sorry, Ebony, may I ask another follow-up question?
Go ahead. This is my co-host today, Smokie Norful.
No, I don't want to call. I didn't want to be that. I did not want to be that guy. I was like, no, shut up, Smokie. I don't want to be that guy.
But honestly, Smokie, you're asking questions that some other artists that may be watching this may be wanting to ask as well. So please.
Well, it's specifically about membership. So one of the frustrating things that I learned in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years about Academy membership is that a lot of the gospel community don't have membership. And I'm not saying, and there's honestly, there's no reason, there's no excuse, I should say it that way, that we didn't and don't in mass have membership. But once I realized that and found that out, I started seeing a very rapid changing of the terms of membership or how to acquire or become a member. And it became a lot more difficult and layered as to how members can actually join now. So what is the way to, because if one of the goals and the expectations is to increase membership, how do you do that when you're making, the filter a lot more thick?
Right.
So,
well, if we've done that, then that's the wrong thing, and that's not what we've intended to do. The goal is to try and make becoming a member smooth and fluid, while also maintaining our level of professionalism for all of our members. So the only change now is you get 2 letters of recommendation. And the reason we did that is because we want to encourage people to come. I think at the Academy, there was a mistake made at a certain point where we're the Academy. If you want to join us, you got to come, you got to submit. We'll see if we want you. Right now, we're going into different music communities and saying, we want you, we need you. We need more of this. We need more, banjo players. We need more Latin music representation. Going into these communities and inviting them. So letters of recommendation are how we're finding new members. You don't have to be a member to give somebody a letter of recommendation. Anybody who's a professional in the music space can recommend 2 people every year. And when those 2 people come to us, we vet them. We say, do they have professional credits? Yes, no, that's it. That's the only qualification you have to have. And the reason specifically, Smokie, we're doing that is because we have to get our membership up to par. It has to be representative and reflective of what's going on in the industry. I talked about, Black music, whether that's gospel or R&B or hip hop, whatever the genre is, the representation is around 37% creation. As far as all the music being created, 37% of it is Black music. In our membership, we have 11% representation voting. So you can see there's a major problem with the people who are voting for music, or not just because they're Black or white, but because of their area of expertise and what music they might be listening to and what music they might be familiar with, as opposed to just looking in categories and say, oh, I recognize that name, let me vote. So making sure that we have the right representation, whether that's from the gospel music community and going into that community and making sure we have enough people that can really, with an educated vote, determine who the nominees need to be. And we've been criticized from the beginning of time, really, we don't get the nominations right every year. There's somebody that gets left off, or somebody gets angry, or somebody like, how could you overlook this person? And my answer is very simply, until we get our membership so that it's completely relevant and reflective of all those genres of music, we're not going to get the right winners or the right nominees. And that's what we're actively working on. And to your earlier point, we have goals. We have certain percentages that we want to see. We want to see 2,500 new women members by 2025. And so there's a certain amount we have to get every year. Same for Black representation. So these numbers are quantitative. We can look at them and really determine if we're making strides or if we're not. And it starts with us going into the communities and asking people, we need you. Will you become a member? Explaining. We also have to do a better job of explaining why it's important to be a member. A lot of people don't know. They don't know that they think you can vote and you can win a Grammy, which is cool. That's why I joined, honestly. I said, I want to vote for myself, so I'm going to join. But it's way bigger than that. It's about advocacy. Going to the Academy goes into DC every year, and Rodney's been there with me. We go there, and you've been there, Smokie. Yeah, that's right. And we stand and we jump up and down on people's desks saying, you have to hear us. The music community and the creative community has to be represented. During COVID, we've been there nonstop, working on the stimulus packages and the relief bills, making sure that we're taking into consideration and accounted for. We've been very successful. That's something we do 365 days a year. Music in the schools and education, making sure kids have instruments and make sure they're being exposed to all different kinds of music. That's something we're doing all day, every year. Music Cares. This year, we've given out over $25 million to people who need help. People they couldn't pay rent, or they couldn't get food, or they needed medical help, or, they got in a car crash and their guitar got broken. They need a new guitar. That money goes from the Academy straight into the industry. So when you educate people and you tell people, it's not just about the Grammys. Yes, the Grammys is important, but it's about the other things that are for the good and for the welfare and the health of the industry. People start to understand and they get it. So it's not maybe a lot of you might be okay, but people in your company or in your crew of people, songwriters, producers, traveling musicians, light riggers, different people might have a hardship and might be struggling. And for them, these are the things that need to be in place. So that's why I ran as a chairman of the Academy. I saw the importance, and that's why I try and spread the message to people that we need your help. We need your membership. Trying to tear the Academy down, trying to be mad about nominations doesn't serve anybody. It doesn't get across the point that I'm trying to accomplish, which is positivity for the industry and making sure that we have the ability to continue to make a living. And for those of us that are having a hard time making a living, be helpful.
Rodney, let me get you to join in on this conversation here. I was asking about, how in your respective genre of music that you work in, how do you see the landscape of it as it relates to diversity and inclusion? And what are you hoping moving forward as we're partnering with the Recording Academy on some of these initiatives to see happen?
Yeah, I try not to limit myself to genres, specific genre. But I will say this, being a former trustee, and to Smokie, I've been on the front line and I've seen all of what the Recording Academy does. And I think sometimes people, they think, there's this like crystal ball and everything's just going to change overnight. It's a process. It's a process to be able to meet the concerns of so many different people. But there are people that are constantly working each and every day to meet these concerns. And to see change happen and be effective is so positive. What I would like to personally see is I'm a PK, I'm a church kid. So what I would personally like to see is I would like to see the Grammy show more love to the gospel community. And what I mean by that is, not having to be on that main stage is so important. I think, I've been nominated. I was nominated for a gospel record that I put out a few years ago called "I'm Good." I'm nominated for another gospel song this year. And the one thing that I always tell people is that gospel music is pretty much the root of all music. Like if you really want to go back to like the beginning of music, it's probably going to start somewhere, with someone singing some hymn somewhere. Like that's how far music goes back to Christian music, faith music. And so I think that main stage is such an important place for someone to showcase their talent and to be respected. And we only see that every so like we might see Kirk Franklin, 1 year, and then there's like a 3 to 5 year lapse, and then
a decade.
And I just feel like that. I know it's not, and I'm not saying that it's an easy task for any executive producer to include all genres, right? Because then, if you make us think about one genre, then someone's going to say, well, hey, we do blues over here. What about us? We do jazz over here. What about us? But I do think because gospel is to me one of the roots of music, I feel like that it's almost necessary for it to be included into the thinking of that show. And another thing I'll just like to take the time to say too, just a little bit, not still on subject but a little off subject, is that when we talk about diversity and we talk about, even from a gender perspective, women and men in the CCM market, what I experienced in that market was I was taking a record to radio one year in 2014, and the guy who was working the record at radio, he said that it's going to be very tough because 98% of the records being played are male records at CCM. So I was like, what? And I was like, this is really interesting to me that, there's issues all over. So, when you, and then I looked at it for myself, I actually went to the charts and I was like, whoa, like the CCM charts are filled with male artists and not too many female artists. So, kudos to people who get in there, like the Kari Jobes of the world and Lauren Daigle's and different people that have made it into that world, because it's very a male dominating factor. And I just believe that has to change, all around. So I think, I worked hand in hand with Harvey beyond, us being on the front line in DC, but I've known Harvey since the 90s and we worked together. And if anybody who's going to listen and be sincere about hearing these things and then trying to activate our concerns, it's going to be Harvey, because he's one of us, right? He's not just a person that was sitting down, hitting papers and saying, hey, I raised my hand. This is a guy who's been in the studio. He knows the blood, the sweat, the tears of all of us, all of his peers. He knows what that means, and he knows what it means to our community to get these things right. So, it's to me, the timing could not have been better for us to, I'm kind of like Smokie in a sense where Harvey, I wish, 7 months is kind of too short.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do understand, like, if anything, Harvey's going to make sure that in those next 7 months that he really goes forth and brings these concerns to everyone involved. And I think, I think we're primed for a bright future. I think things are in the front for a reason. And I don't think it's a time, this is a season for artists, producers, songwriters to be upset and cry about the past. But I think it's a time to actually stand up and smile and know that our future is bright, because things are now in the light and now we can move forward.
I'm going to invite some of the younger guys on here to talk right quick. Oh, I'm sorry. Was Jason, were you getting ready to say something?
No, I just said, well said. Well said.
I want to invite the younger artists here and say hello also before we go to them, to Miss Kari Jobe, who has joined us. Hi, Kari. I'm going to let you hear.
I was just going to say hi. I'm so glad. I am momming today, but I was getting to listen to the conversation and just very honored to be a part. And I love all of you so much and have been massively impacted by all of you, your art. And so glad to be here. Thanks.
We are glad to have you. I'm going to ask you a question soon, but I do want to talk to Kierra and Tauren, because they're two of the younger faces here, and they're coming into the Grammys at a time where, just like Harvey is talking about, there's changes that are happening that will be very impactful for what you do. What have been your experiences? What are you seeing in music from your perspective, and what are you excited about as we're moving forward and partnering alongside of the Recording Academy to accomplish some of these initiatives?
Well, I will say that I agree with Dr. Norful, and of course to Dr. Jerkins. And a salute to you, Mr. Harvey, for this opportunity and all of the things that you're doing to make happen, and everyone that's on the panel. But I have had an unusual experience as well. However, as a millennial, I will accept responsibility and say that there's probably some things that I have not done as it pertains to my membership to make sure that I'm in that space that I need to be in so that I can have a voice in the Academy. So I'll take my responsibility for that. However, I am enjoying, as Mr. Harvey mentioned, I just had the opportunity to be a part of Positive Vibes Only. And as soon as I heard the name Grammy, a part of it, I was like, oh, what? I got to put on my good clothes. I got to make sure, I just show out. So having that opportunity, because, as we kind of have mentioned just briefly and lightly and respectfully, I can't say that I've had too many of those Grammy performance opportunities, but I can say that once I had it slide past my desk, I was like, oh, we about to show out. So I will say I have definitely seen the progress as it pertains to what Mr. Harvey mentioned thus far, and that is allowing more Black creatives to have this opportunity to be a part of anything that's associated with Grammys. And then not just that, I've been nominated for one other record, and I think I was younger then. I've been in it now, like you said, Ebony, been blessed to be in it for a little over 15 years now. I'm young, but I've had the opportunity with working with Rodney Jerkins. And so mentioning or kind of piggybacking off of what he said, having more opportunities for gospel artists. Like if they're singing our songs, can we sing our songs, instead of someone else singing our songs? And I say that with total humility and humbly. But I would love to see, like he already mentioned, the Clark sisters, the Winans, those that have blazed the trail while they're still here. Can they have that moment on the stage? And I don't just say that, because they're family, but I believe I'm a true advocate too of giving people their roses before they're gone. And I feel like a lot of times, not just with the Grammys, just within humanity, we seem to appreciate people when it's too late. So that's just another thing. But I think too, just like you were saying, Mr. Harvey, going into those communities, I definitely see the action there, because I have friends who are just kind of in a whole different, they're like, I'm trying to find the word side, because I got to be politically correct because we still talking to the Grammys, but more of like a carefree or free person. Like they don't sing gospel and they've had opportunities with the Grammys. So I'm like, oh yeah, that is definitely something new. So salute to you. But I think overall for us, even as creators, the question I'm left with is, should we shift gears so that it's not just all about money and it becomes more about the people, especially considering the climate that we're in, and also considering the effect and the influence that music has on our world?
That's good, Tauren. Thank you, Kierra.
Very good. I guess I have to step back from the Grammy conversation and just look at, personally, what are we doing to create inclusive and diverse environments within our own sphere of influence? And that's not to put anybody on blast, but we have this thing in our culture where we hold organizations to high standards while we have low personal standards for what we're setting for them.
That's true.
So we hold them up here to this gold standard of this should be for everybody, and we can walk into church and it all looks like us. So what are we doing to create the ideals that we are wanting to someone else to champion for us? And, and I think it starts at a very basic level of just friends and acquaintances and people that you allow into your life. I know in my band, I have Black band members, Hispanic band members. We sing gospel music, we sing worship music, we sing pop music. We try to cover everything that we can because I want it to be a holistic experience that is natural to my upbringing. So I'm not trying to be anything that I'm not, but I'm also wanting to express in these ways that I have direct influence. So I think as the Grammy members and some of us that have been a part, doing some self-evaluation and looking at how inclusive our environments are, and are we personally championing different people and different voices. I know for me, on the CCM charts where most of my music lands, I am one of 3 Black voices in rotation on those charts. Me, Michael Tate from the Newsboys, and Mandisa. So it's a very unique scenario. But if I go to the gospel side, I haven't had a song in the top 50 in gospel. So, you know, how inclusive are our environments, and are we holding the Grammys to an ideal that we don't personally represent? I think that's the real challenge, and then going from there.
I'm gonna let you try. Go ahead.
Make sure I'm not on mute. Okay. I just want to speak to that. I think it's a very powerful point that it's an individualized assessment that first needs to take place before we actually look at organizations. And that is good. But expanding upon that, a lot of the individualized views, or if we take a introspective look at ourselves, we're collaboratively, we compile the Church Universal, but we also have the institutions of church, which are the individualized churches. And so I think not only the individual has to take introspection, but the institutions need to stop and actually do an introspection, or do a self-reflection on where we are and what we're actually doing to be collaborative, to be collective. Here's the thing. Just like you just named or talked about the charts on CCM and the lack of inclusivity when it comes to you, I've been in the industry 20 something years. I've had many number ones, sold millions of CDs, all of the stuff, you know. I've never charted on the CCM side either. And I've been doing it a long time. And I actually was, quote unquote, accepted on the CCM side. I was one of the few gospel artists that was invited to the mountain where they have this nice worship gathering. I was one of the few gospel artists because of Bill Hearn, who has gone on now to be with God, but because of him and his advocacy for me and for the genre, I was able to get a lot more access than many. And that's where Jason Crabb and I became really close friends, was throughout those times and all of that inclusivity that was given to me there. But what I noticed, this is my own experience, again, disclaimer, what I noticed is that we are very accepting to the worship community. We're not necessarily, it's not reciprocated all of the time. And if it is, if we are doing things together, it's typically where, you know, I think I hate Cody's not on here. To Kari, you have to speak for your hubby. But a few minutes ago, he said, you know, he sees a lot more coming together, where from inception, from the writing of the song all the way to the presentation of the song, there's a lot more collaboration happening between the two groups, or the two races, I should say that way. But where is it being done? What forum is it being done in? It's always, or seemingly, it's always in the CCM arena. We'll do that, but it's always pushed or done there. But how many times have any of the CCM artists come to the gospel arena and done the same thing or similar thing? Like I could get called to write and or sing on any of the worship, and I won't name any of the worship houses of faith, but any of the worship houses of faith, and it will be celebrated. Everybody will be kumbaya, great glory to God. We're all coming together. But how many of them would come to our albums and be a part of our projects or our conferences? Because they're too small, or they're whatever. I mean, whatever standard of disqualification is put in position, how many times has that forum been over here? So I hope that makes sense. I got so much to say about that.
Well, I think all of this conversation really brings up an important question, and that is, do we have the ability as faith leaders in this industry to help unify collectively and address those issues, diversity, racial equality, systemic bias, especially when many communities, not all communities, agree that it even exists? What can we do in the music industry and the music communities to start fostering that kind of bridging together of communities around these topics where we are in agreement and that is impactful, and we're opening the doors for generations coming behind in this industry? I'm asking a question to anyone.
So here's this is Jason. Here's the thing. I think this is fantastic, because the first way of of making a change or whatever, you have to hear the hearts of everyone and to know where their thought patterns are, what's going on in their minds and also in their heart and in their soul. Hey, I feel like I'm, maybe not been invited or a part of this. And I think a lot of us artists and blessed, by God to get to do what we do, we have great hearts and we want these things to happen. So this is perfect. The conversation that is striking up, Smokie sharing that, I think it's awesome that we all come together and go, hey, man, I would love to sit down at the table with you and let's you and I figure out, man, how do we bridge these gaps? How do we, as leaders, not just point out a situation and go, why is this? Go, okay, let's change this. Let's do it. We're leaders. We're the ones that people are looking at. We're the voices that people are listening to. So let's do this. And I know that sounds like maybe a little easier said than done, maybe for lack of better terms, but I don't really think that it would be that hard. I would love that. I would love to sit down at a concert or at a venue or at a record and hear so much diversity in faith and, in their hearts and their beliefs. And they all come together and do that and write these songs. I don't know. I think this is fantastic because, hey, anybody that wants to get together after this is over with, man, let's go have some coffee and let's figure this thing out, because that's what I want to do. And maybe I don't know if that's the right thing to say, the right answer or whatever, but that's my heart. And I think it would be good for the world. I think it'd be good for our churches. I think it'd be good for community. I think good for, the people that's underneath us, that's younger, that's underneath us, that's watching us as a collective group of people. And honestly, believers. I mean, that's what I say, we're all believers and we want to, anybody's heart that is on this panel right now that feels like, there's something that we could do different. I think the problem is a lot of times we don't know because we don't talk. And maybe it's just me because, and I'm not saying talk like on a book, I'm just talking about with each other. I would love to do, hey, any of y'all want to call me up? Let's roll. We'll write, we'll sing, we'll preach, we'll have tent revival service. We'll do whatever y'all want, man, because I love, and am so thankful that God has allowed me to get to do this. And anything that I can ever do, man, I just love it. Smokie, you've challenged me, man, and I'm just like, hey, dude, I'm gonna call you. And go, hey, let's roll. What do I do? What can I do, man?
Who did it extremely well. I mean, and I don't believe there's nothing new under the sun. So it's already benchmarked, and you and I both were a part of it, Jason. But Bishop T.D. Jakes,
oh man,
and Bill Gaither got together and did a homecoming. And both Jason and I were on the stage, and it was everybody in Christian music. It was country. It was every section. And I was one of the representations of gospel. There was old school gospel.
Yeah.
It was new. I was the new, believe it or not, Kierra and Tauren. I was actually the new kid. I was a 20-something-year-old, but I think that it was really the embodiment of what is missing now in the new. That was gospel. There's a worship movement even that is missing that variable, that cohesiveness. And if someone were to put, and again, you had two of the biggest and most prominent people in Southern gospel and in gospel, and that was Bishop Jakes and Bill Gaither.
Yeah.
But what happens when that happens in worship? And it was at the Potter's House. So again, to the forum, it wasn't at a Southern Gospel or Southern Baptist church. It was literally at the Potter's House, and it was Bill Gaither live with T.D. Jakes live from the Potter's House, and it was everything and everybody, and it was beautiful. It was
Yes, it
powerful.
was.
It was very,
It
very
was.
powerful.
I remember you
don't know
did
anyone-
down.
I don't know anyone that's saying no to that. I mean, I don't know of anyone. You know, I just think creating opportunities like that in this generation from these leaders is important. I would love to come to your church, Smokie.
You coming, Tauren? Everybody heard that. Everyone heard that.
Here we go. We laying the cards out on the table now. Here we go.
I'm having everyone here.
Well, guys, hold on. Before, I want to put a pin on this because I think this conversation is amazing and we need to keep this going. This is just a taste bit outside of the Recording Academy, but
well, no, can I bring it in, Ebony? Let me bring it in. Can I bring it in?
It does.
Harvey, come on. We want to do this so the Recording Academy can be a catalyst because you have such great influence.
Yes.
To doing something like this.
Huge.
And it speaks to heart towards music, towards faith, towards community, towards love. It's so many different ways that you can actually position this, but it would be phenomenal if we did this. It was massive, and it was also a Recording Academy initiative.
Yes.
Well, I love it. And I will tell you, my ears are both literally big and figuratively big. So if you guys are working on something and you think that there's a service that the Academy can provide, there's something that we can do to help amplify or just improve something or something that's important that we get involved in, please reach out to me directly. I'm 24/7 on my text, email. I love the conversation. I think the discussion is very, very important. I've heard you all. I've learned something really, really special today. The only thing I'll say in leaving, because I do have to step off, is that, and we've been talking about it, and I'm just summarizing, we have an opportunity to change the world. And it's a little altruistic or maybe corny, but through music and through what you all do so well, we have a chance to really make a difference. And anytime you see an event taking place or a transformative time in history, there's been music attached to it or closely associated with it. So I think you're all speaking the exact same thing, which is let's use what we do, use our art, use our collaboration, our energies for good and for positivity. And that's really what I'm about. And that's what I'm trying to do through my work at the Academy. So I'm all ears. Please loop me in on anything that I can be helpful on. This is really important to me. I've made millions of records and all the things we've all done. And my focus now is making sure that we're doing things the right way and we're bringing good energy and love and togetherness to not just our industry, but to the, and I mean, it sounds so corny, but to the world, and that's where I'm in my life. And I hope that we can all work on something together. If I can be helpful, please hit me directly.
We can feel that, man. We can feel that.
Thank you very much. And Ebony, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Honor. I'm humbled to be with somebody like this. Panel is incredible. I love all of your music, all your work. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sure.
And while Harvey is leaving, I want us just to a few more questions and then we'll put a bow on it because I think the conversation is good. And here's a great opportunity for people in worship, Southern gospel and gospel to kind of come together. Let's put a bow on this. And I want to hear also from Kari because Kari, you and your husband are nominated for a song that prior to COVID, The Blessing, has literally gone across the world and it has sparked some conversations and about reconciliation amongst communities. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's been so beautiful to watch a song have so much power to cross denominational barriers, race barriers, all the things that, I think we can get caught up in different areas. And just to watch, like, this is a prayer straight from scripture that God commanded them to pray over their families and that God would give them peace. And, I remember hearing the benediction prayer when I was a child, before you'd leave church on a Sunday. It was like, receive this prayer. The pastor would pray it. And so I think it's so special we got to capture that in a song. And it's just one of those songs that I think no matter where someone finds themselves, it's kind of has an anointing on it to just kind of stop them in their tracks and say, I need this. And I am so thankful that this is who God is, and I'm really inspired today because I think something that we can get caught up in life is just getting so busy in our own things and busy doing our own things that we're really passionate about, that we forget to make sure that they're impacting our neighbor, literally, like the lady living beside me. Like, how is her life? Am I focused so much on leading people in the church all over the world and neglecting, is my neighbor okay? Does she need something during this COVID season? Things like that. And I think, like, just hearing you, Pastor Smokie, just talking about things that you've experienced in the church and watching division and division and division after division, it's like, wow, I want to see that change, because I don't want my boys to be raised thinking that that's okay. And so what's beautiful is that the presence of God is so real and tangible, and that God can do such beautiful things to bring healing, to bring his presence, and I just don't want anyone to miss out on that because of division or because of unforgiveness or because of unrest, or, you know what I mean? So I love that. I love that the blessings bringing so much peace to people. It's been such an honor.
And guys, I want to ask all of you, as we're closing, if we can just go through, we talked about Smokie and Jason have now formed a coalition. We're going to work on.
Hey, it's called we got a red coat.
The Red Coat Coalition, where they're going to work on some events coming up where we can galvanize all of the communities around unifying. Matt Marr said on an earlier One Voice conversation that we had, that unifying also means that you have to do life with people who don't look like you.
Yeah.
And this is a part of what you guys are talking about, doing life with one another, more than just, I know a white person or they know me, but you're actually walking through, these moments with them, in covenant with them as brother, as sister, as friend. How can we unify all of this? Rodney works in 50,000 different genres, so I want him to talk from that perspective too. But as a faith community, how can we take what we're talking about here and really put it to action moving forward? Because this is the time to do it, and this is a great time to plan since we're not going many places in COVID. What can we do? Go ahead.
I think Jason said something that really stuck with me, and it had to do with the soul. And then when you brought up Rodney and him having this like resume of just working with everybody, I think the most inspiring thing that I have seen Rodney do is he knows how to become all things to all people. Yeah. And I think that has to do with a way of communicating, like Jason was saying, from the soul, and knowing, I want to say almost kind of how to be diplomatic, but from a spiritual standpoint. And I think that we kind of communicate that piece out of humanity, but a part of humanity has everything to do with our souls. And music is that language that speaks to something deeper within ourselves. So I would say, becoming all things to all people, but even having empathy for that place that maybe we don't discuss at the table, but that goes deeper, as it pertains to our domestication or just our ways of thinking. I think I heard Dr. Norful speak about just understanding more of the psychology of it all. And I think that'll help us have more healthier conversations where we're developing a transparent way of communicating, but it's not so much of I'm about to read you. It's no, I'm trying to understand you so that I can coexist with you. And I think that's where we as creatives, because we as creatives, we kind of are, a lot of us move by emotion. We won't really say that, but a lot of us move by emotion. And sometimes the good comes out of that space. So I think unity has everything to do with how we're understanding each other and learning that it's okay to, like a lot of us say, but we don't really do it, which is to agree to disagree, but you still are my brother and my sister, and we can still create, So I think that that's possible, but are we actually going to do it, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
I think the word.
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think it has to be more than more than conversation, and I think that's kind of what Kierra is saying as well, because a lot of times, and this is just overall, right? We can have conversations till we're black and blue in the face, but it doesn't matter unless we actually do it, unless we actually take those steps so we can look and say, okay, this conversation happened on January 11, 2021. By July, these 3 to 4 things happened. And I think that's what has to take place, is that we have to we've had the conversation. Everybody's put it out there. Everybody's put their feelings out there. The conversation has been heard, has been heard, but now we have to be effective in actually doing, and so we can actually influence others to do.
Can I say something to this, Rodney? It's not just, I guess one of the things that we have to decide or determine within ourselves when we set out to do it is that everybody will not do it with us, and that's okay. Use the ones that will. If a Tauren and a Kari will, if a Smokie and a Jason and a Kierra and a Rodney will, then don't let who won't do it be a deterrent. And I think a lot of times that's what we see too, is that we'll have a few key people who we think are just, in our own minds, in our own experience, where they're not with us, and we group and lump everybody together and categorize them like, well, they won't do it. Well, who is they specifically? Because Kari said yes, Tauren said yes, Smokie, Jason, and Kierra said yes, Rodney said yes. Ebony's going to even sing. We're going to do some auto-tune, but we got her.
Oh, shoot.
I'm background vocals.
I think there is one more thing that throw up in the mix. A lot of times we'll bring these things up and we'd be excited about it, whether it be a record, whether it be a series, a tour of 5 to 10 dates that we all join hands and do whatever. And we have the artists come together and go, yeah, we want to be a part of this. We want to do this because the artists' hearts are right. We want to link together. We want to join hands. We want to celebrate each other, and you got a good panel of people here, because I've been with pretty much every person on this panel, and I'm a fan. I'm talking about, when I say I'm a fan, I'm a huge fan of everyone on here. And I'm sitting here going, man, what in the world am I doing on this panel? I'm from Beaver Dam, Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Here's the thing that happens. We go and we say, this is what we want to do. This is what we're excited about. This is how we can reach the world. And then people around us that influence our lives, such as labels and not down in labels or management and all that kind of stuff, we present these things to them. Maybe they just don't grasp a hold of it like we do. And I sometimes I think that could be a little wedge to where that's like, wait a minute. It's not our pie. It's not just our whatever. And then, we get discouraged for a second. I'm just saying, maybe that's one of the things that we go, hey, maybe just start trying to push some of those things to say, hey, yeah, I know we're obligated. I know that you're probably getting more spins than me. I know that you're probably selling more records than I am. I know that. But I think the bigger picture is when we all come together and do what we're talking about doing, that's when it does change the world. And sometimes outside voices get in the way. I say outside voices from our hearts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, Kari, Tauren, I'm gonna let you jump in before I close out.
I was just thinking about how I'm with you also, Jason. I keep looking at this panel going, how am I even here? I feel like this little girl from Texas.
You are amazing, girl.
I just started leading worship because I fell in love with the fact that God changes people's lives. And that, like Kierra said, music has this ability to just do something that we can't even explain. And it brings healing to people. It helps people pray things that they didn't know they could find the words for. And it brings healing and it brings life and hope. And, you know, I just keep thinking about the scripture that says, store up treasures in heaven, not on earth. And there's this fine line and this balance we have to walk in when we're nominated for an amazing Grammy, which is wild, and a Dove Award, and you see this thing sitting on your shelf and you think that is such an honor. But then there's a stewardship that comes with that of influence. And that's what this is today. We're trying to steward the influence that we have because of our gift, because of our calling, because of our hearts and our passions. And I just want to do my best to impact the people that God's called me to impact. And I just feel really inspired today to not leave and just stay so busy doing my own little thing that I'm missing the point and that I'm not even impacting everyone I can. So thanks for letting me be in on this conversation.
Absolutely. Tauren?
Yeah, likewise. I think for me, it's the continuation of the thought of how can I invite people into my world and how can I step into theirs at the end of the day. The people that are on my bus, the people that I'm in venues with, that I'm doing life with, honestly, what does that look like? And does that look like the kingdom that I'm preaching and that I want to be about? And that's not just black or white, you know, that's including people that think differently from you, that have different perspectives, that are coming from a different place. They may be believers, they may not be, and respecting where everybody is at, but allowing the right people to come in and step into other people's worlds and lend what you can and not be afraid and guarded, you know. But yeah, it's been an honor to be on here. All of y'all, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. And I'm thankful for this, for everybody, honestly, being honest about where you're at and what you feel. I think that's a huge part of moving forward.
Yeah.
It's being honest.
Good.
And being able to take the filter off and say, yeah, that's good. But this is how I actually feel. And if we face it, we can change it.
I love that. Thank you, Tauren. And, you know, the One Voice Initiative, part of what we're doing is bringing together all of these communities under the umbrella of the gospel to unify. And, you know, we're in a racially volatile time in our nation, but as carriers of the gospel of Jesus through music, it is imperative that our artists and our industry be at the forefront of leading the charge for positive change. Yeah. And by courageously doing that, using our platforms, each one of you have major platforms, and even people that may be watching today. You know, I hope that this conversation was good and sparked some introspection and how can I do my part and play my part in bridging the divide that we're seeing happening in this country so that we can begin to really heal. If you're watching this, somebody wants to say.
I have one question. So
yes.
Whose house are we meeting at after we're finished with this? Are we going to Smokie's? Are we going to Rodney's? Are we
I'm going to be at Rodney's compound.
I think I'm going to be at compound too.
Everybody votes Rodney, say yay.
Yay.
Hey.
Send us the jet, Rodney.
Everybody's welcome. And you know what, as I sit and I see everybody on this panel, my mind creatively gets excited because I can actually envision what it would sound like if you had, you know, those songs where it's you know, Kierra and you know, and Carrier, you know, Tauren and Smokie and Jason, like, you know, bringing these worlds together to create that collision. I think that's what heaven's going to be about anyway. Yeah. So what technically, what are you waiting for at this point, right? If you kind of know what the ending is, I think we all can agree on what we know what the ending is. And if we know what the ending, what are we waiting for to get started for anyway? I think God wants that. God wants to hear with that. He created everyone with this amazing gift, and he wants that to come together like that. So don't wait till it's all said and done. Start it now.
We're going to call it. We're coming over to your house. I'm telling you, we're on our way. It's going to be good.
Kari, we definitely want you to sing, of course, right? The world loves your voice. But I just want you to talk. You are so
I
annoying
know.
when you talk. I feel like weeping. Like, oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
He's been in the presence of Jesus.
Yes, for real.
Thank you.
Well, guys, everyone that's watching, we want you to remember to take time to like, follow, and share this conversation on your page. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that you'll be notified when our next conversation is up. And please do start a discussion of your own. Listen, no conversation is perfect. Sometimes they are challenging, divisive. Sometimes they can be thought-provoking. Hopefully they all lead to change. But if we're going to make a difference and build a bridge to unifying our communities around the true gospel of Jesus, well, then the conversations not only have to be had, like Rodney said, but they have to continue, and we have to do something about it. So we'll see you the next time. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of my panelists on today. And good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What can you do? Continue the conversation. Make efforts to talk with someone that doesn't look like you or live in your circle. Stay up on our ongoing conversation. Like and follow this page to receive notifications of future conversations that continue. Like and share our post on your page to start your own conversations with friends and family.